Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening, but they fought with expert timing.
Hi everyone, Josh Smith here on behalf of Local Client Takeover, and in this video we're going to talk about Client Kung Fu. My Client Kung Fu is strong. Hopefully by the end of this video your Client Kung Fu will be strong as well. And the basic premise of this is how to win in any client situation. Nowadays you hear a lot of people talking about how to get clients as well as how to rank sites. But you don't hear a lot of people talking about the client interactions, how to control the situation, also, how to keep the clients that you have, and how to set the proper foundation to make sure that once you bring on a client, it is a good client that's not going to be calling you at 2 o'clock in the morning, wanting to know why they're not ranking for weight loss when you just took on their project last week. So the first thing you have to do in order to be able to interact with clients effectively is understand the psychology behind why that client is utilizing your services. And there's an acronym that makes this easy to remember. It's FIP. The F stands for finance. Any client that's with you, one of the main reasons they're with you is because they're going to get some type of financial gain by utilizing your services. This one is pretty self-explanatory. Most people focus their sales process around it. We talk about ROI, we talk about how much money they're going to make off of these leads and everything else. So that one's pretty out in the open and obvious. The next is image. So any client that's with you wants to portray that they're more professional and organized than the competition. This is where things like online reputation management, branding, and things like that come into play. And it's all about how the client is viewed in their customers' eyes. And by utilizing your services, they want to portray, that more professional and organized look and feel. And the P is productivity. They want to be able to reduce costs, increase profit while scaling the business. And I know that this seems like such a basic concept, but any interaction that you're having with a client or a prospect, you need to take it back to this psychology and try to say, okay, well, which one of these three are we talking about right now? Is it the finance, is it the image, or the productivity? And I'm not telling you to literally say that to the client. What I'm saying is inside of your head, you need to try to align what they're talking about with one of these three things. And I can pretty much guarantee you that just about any situation you're going to come across with a client is going to fall into one of these three categories. So moving on, I want to talk about setting the stage for a healthy partnership. It's very important that you set the stage right in the beginning with every single prospect that you have, every client that you onboard, because the goal is for you to have quality clients that, like I said, aren't calling you at 2 o'clock in the morning or texting you or blowing your phone up, wanting to know, why am I not ranking for, make money online, and you just took on my project yesterday. That's not the kind of clients that anybody wants. I think we can all agree with that. And some of these things in this video you may disagree with, and that's okay. You don't have to implement everything that I'm saying here. These techniques are a combination of things that I've learned from dealing with clients, dealing with customers, being in sales, dealing with a lot of customer service, being in management, as well as literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of different employers throughout the years training me on how to interact with people. So the first thing you want to do, and that's why this is number one, you have to set the proper expectation with every single prospect. Anything you do, you want to make sure that you set the proper expectation so that you can refer back to it if they start, coming outside of that box, so that they understand exactly what the process is going to look like and what to expect. The second piece is always underpromise and overdeliver. So let me give an example. If I have a project that I'm doing, and I know that it's going to take me until Wednesday to complete, I'm not going to tell the client that I'll have it done by Wednesday. I'm going to tell them that I'll have it done by Friday. You want to always build in a cushion so that if something goes wrong, you still look like a superstar. So in other words, in the prior example, if something were to happen during that project and it extended that project out to where I finished on Thursday instead of Wednesday, in the client's eyes, I still delivered a day early. So I'm still a rock star. I realistically know that I initially planned on getting it to them Wednesday, and there was a hiccup which actually caused me to go past my own deadline. So what you want to do is you want to set a soft deadline for yourself, a hard deadline for the client, and you want to make sure that you're building in enough cushion so that you're under promising and over delivering. If you think it's going to take you 3 months to rank them, tell them it's going to take 6 months. Tell them it's going to take 5 months. That way, if it takes 4 months, you still look like a rock star. The only time that you don't want to do this is in your pricing. You don't want to underprice and then with an estimate and then end up, having to go $10,000 above what you originally said. But this isn't talking about pricing. This is simply talking about dealing with clients, setting the expectations, and framing everything so that you have a healthy partnership with them. Anyone that knows me knows that I'm a huge quote guy. I spent about 15 years just in sales, and I'm really big on sales quotes, really big on any type of quote. And this is one of my favorite quotes of all time. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's by Tom Hopkins, and I've done a lot of his training. I would definitely recommend his training to any of you guys that are looking to up your sales game. So how do we apply this to dealing with prospects and clients? For example, I'm not going to tell a client how much I know about SEO or how much I know about setting up a funnel or how much I know about any of that stuff before I find out from them exactly what they're looking for, and I make sure that they feel like I'm aligned with them and I care. Their goals have become my goals. Once their goals have become my goals and they know that and I've conveyed that and they feel that from me, then they want to know how much I know about everything. Number 4, put everything in writing and have them sign it. This is for a few different reasons, obviously legal reasons. However, you can always refer back to, hey, do you remember when we had that discussion about so-and-so and so, and I said this was what you could expect and you signed off on it, and they say, oh, yes. Okay, this is what I was talking about. At that point, once their name is on it, they can't really say a whole lot about that. 5, go over the details of any agreements that you have and check their understanding before you take them on as a client. I go over line by line my agreement and make sure that that person understands every single clause in that agreement before I will even consider taking them on as a client. No matter how negative the statement may sound as far as you trying to cover yourself from bad situations in the past, it does not matter. You need to make sure that you are upfront 100% transparent with that prospect and or client. And this could be a client that you're upselling. This could be a client that you've had for a while that you're getting ready to do an additional project for. Anything like that. Make sure you go over the details of the agreement with them and check their understanding before you go any further. Number 6, stand your ground on what you've told them and make sure you do what you say you're going to do. Now, this kind of falls under the under promise and over deliver as far as doing what you say you're going to do. But don't get diarrhea of the mouth and start telling them everything you're going to do for them, because you never know. They may be recording that phone call. They may be writing all that down, and you may just be talking out the side of your mouth trying to close the sale, or trying to get them to get off the phone, or trying to get them to quit calling you or emailing you or whatever it is. And they may be keeping documentation of everything that you're saying. And then if you don't do exactly what you said you're going to do, then all their respect for you goes out the door. Your business looks like some second-rate mom and pop shop that has no clue what you're doing. It's just a bad situation. Also, stand your ground on what you've told them. Don't bend. Don't just roll over if they give you a little bit of pushback. It's important that they understand that you are the professional, and there's a right way and a wrong way to do this. It's like I say, there's a big difference between confidence and arrogance. Confidence is you know what you're talking about and you're firm in what you do because you know what you're talking about. You have the results to back it up. You are the expert. Arrogance is when you talk down to someone. That's unacceptable. However, being confident about what you're doing, just for example, when I was in sales, I was a sales manager for quite some time. And I used to tell my sales reps all the time, when someone, I believe I actually posted this in a group the other day, when someone metaphorically gut checks you, you need to turn around and metaphorically gut check them right back. If someone says, well, let's see, I'm trying to think of a good example. Okay, I had someone, I was going to do a contract job one time, and for a company, and it was a rather large company. I was meeting with the marketing director, and he asked me, well, how do I know that this isn't just a coffee break for you? Because we were looking at forging a long-term partnership. He said, how do I know this isn't just a coffee break for you? How do I know that in 2 months you're not going to say, hey guys, I appreciate it, I'll see you later? I said, well, the same way that I don't know that after 2 months you're not going to say, well, you know what, it's not working out. Thanks for, everything you've done so far. See you later. And the thing is that I did that in a way that I mirrored exactly the way that he approached me. So in that sense, I instantly earned his respect. He turned and looked to his assistant director and said, I like this guy. Because I realized what kind of person I was dealing with, and I realized that he was straight up gut checking me. And so I turned around and I gut checked him right back. So sometimes that's what you have to do. And it takes experience to learn when to do that and when not to do that. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more, some alternate methods to kind of see if this is a gut check that they're doing or if it's a genuine concern. Continuing on, do not promise them the world. Don't start talking out the side of your mouth, telling them you're going to do X, Y, Z, this, that, and the other, and just trying to say anything you can to get that sale to close or get them to, like I said, get off the phone or quit calling you or whatever. Do not promise them the world. Be very careful about what you agree to do for them, what type of commitments you make. This goes back into setting the proper expectation. It also goes back into under-promising and over-delivering. All this stuff kind of commingles with itself, and it's more of a different way to say the same thing, but I want to make sure that regardless of your level of understanding, some of these key points stick with you. Number 8, remove obscure language from your agreements. When you're going over the agreement with them, if you have a 13-paragraph clause that's one clause in the agreement, your agreement is probably ridiculous. I know that for legal reasons you have to cover yourself, and depending on the line of business that you're in and what verticals you operate in and everything like that. Your agreements are going to be different for everyone, but it's very important that you don't have this overly legalized language that nobody can understand, because when you start to go over this information with the prospect or the client or whatever, if it's flying 50,000 feet over their head, it's going to take you 3 hours to go over a one-page agreement with them. And you want to make sure that they completely understand every stipulation in that agreement before you move forward. Number 9, always keep accurate documentation. You can use your CRM for this. You want to make sure that your billing is flawless, that you maintain client files. For example, one of the things that I used to do when I did more web development myself was I would create an administrative file for every single client, and it would have any of the logins that were required for the build of their site. So if they had a username login for WordPress, I would put that in there. If let's say we used a third-party application and we're using a short code to pull that in, but you had to sign up for an account at the third-party application, I would put that information in there, so on and so forth. If you've done, logos for them, a graphic design or something like that, you need to keep all that stuff on file, because you never know. 6 months down the road, they may say, hey, can you send that file to me? When you're able to send that file to them, it's a complete difference between that and being like, yeah, I don't have that anymore. It's a 100% different ballgame. Number 10, don't be their friend. They're not paying you to be their friend. Be their business partner. Sometimes business partners have to let someone know something that's going to sting a little bit. But if it's in the best interest of the business, that's what you should be doing. People respect people like that. And also with this, honestly, if they were your friend, then you would tell them straight up how it is anyway. So it's important not to beat around the bush too much. Don't try to sugarcoat everything under the sun. And it also depends on the client that you're dealing with. Some people require things to be sugarcoated and some people don't. Most savvy business owners that are going to be good clients, they don't have time for you to pussyfoot around. They really don't. You need to just get to the point and let them know how things are, be honest with them, and move on about your day. So this is an important one as well. How to position yourself as the authority. Because a lot of times, I see this in the Facebook groups all the time. People have clients running all over them. And keep in mind, guys, none of this stuff is 100%. There's always going to be that client that's absolutely impossible. Every one of my clients has not been perfect. We all have horror stories and war stories that I'm sure we could share. Things like, I believe I heard Mark say one time that his client called him and said, hey, I want you to put our Yelp listing above Yellow Pages and swap those around in Google. Yeah, okay, I'll hop right on that for you. You're always going to have stuff like that. But this is really to minimize that. Once you position yourself as the authority of the relationship, then you're going to get a whole different experience with that client, whereas they're not second guessing every single thing that you do. So partnership, let's talk about that. When I'm potentially taking on a client, and sometimes I have to revisit this with clients, I let them know I'm not looking to just take you on as a client. We're going to partner on this plan, and I am looking to partner, or we are looking to partner with business owners, or with businesses who are going to, number one, respect our process because it is proven. Number two, give us the breathing room that we need in order to get done what we need to get done. And number three, be able to respond to us and keep the lines of communication open. If there's something that we need to communicate on, being available for, conference calls within reason, if it's scheduled ahead of time and things like that, as well as, just making sure that they understand that you don't have to take them on as a client. Your business is not going to go under if you don't close this person as a client. That's where the next step comes in, an application to do business. Like I said, some of you are going to disagree with some of these things, and that's okay. I don't expect anyone to run your business exactly, the same way that I do when you're dealing with clients. An application to do business, that really is boss level stuff right there. If you can get people to a point where they have to fill out an application to do business with you, you have completely turned the tides on the type of clients that you're going to attract. Also, when you are talking to them initially, make sure that you let them know the purpose of the conversation. When you hop on a conference call with a client, let them know, hey, the purpose of this conversation, like for example, when I get on an initial consultation with someone, I'll say something to this effect. The purpose of this conversation is really just for me to talk to you a little bit, find out a little bit more information about your goals, make sure that this is going to be a mutually beneficial partnership for both of us. I want to make sure that we're going to be able to deliver what you need, as well as you're going to be a good fit for the type of work that we do and how we operate. Because this is a negotiation. And from this point forward, this is not what I say to the client, but you got to remember, this is a negotiation. You can't just give and then not take. It's give and take. So if you're going to give, then they need to give. We got to meet each other in the middle here. This isn't something where they just walk and pounce all over you and then move on about their business, because at the end of the day, you're not going to have any value in their eyes if you're not positioned as the authority. Do not come across desperate. Be ready to walk away. And I don't mean sound like you're ready to walk away. I mean be ready to walk away. If it's not a good fit, if you're getting too many red flags ahead of time, and you just have a feeling in your gut that this is not going to be a good partnership for you, walk away. Because if you don't, it's going to be stressing you out. It's not going to be fair to your other clients, because what's going to happen is you're going to have to babysit this client all the time, and you're going to be spending more time with them than you do on your other client projects. Your other clients start suffering. It's just a bad situation. So do not come across desperate, and be ready to walk away. Convincing versus conviction. There is a huge difference between being convincing and having conviction. Being convincing means you're selling them the idea. It sounds great. Everything's good. Let's move forward. We sprinkled some cheese on the top and now it tastes delicious, right? That's convincing. Conviction is an entirely different level. Conviction is when you have actually internalized the fact of how quality your service is. And that comes across in everything that you say and everything that you do, how you interact with that person, how you position yourself, how you speak, how everything that you have looks. It's the entire gambit of everything that you do. That is conviction. Conviction is when you don't have to come across desperate and you are ready to walk away because people are filling out applications to do business with you because what you do works just that well. So now we get into the fun part, how to calm down a pissed off client. I don't care who you are. If you do this long enough, you're going to deal with a pissed off client at some point. There's a lot of different ways to deal with it. I was going to share something, but I'm not. I think we all have war stories that we could tell about dealing with a pissed off client. But I want to cover that because that's something that's very, very challenging for people. And I think a lot of you have never really had anybody train you on how to do that. So we're going to use a method here that's called ABC. The A is align. You want to align with their issue and side with them. And I'm going to go through an example after I show the entire process. The second thing you want to do is you want to bridge to a potential set of solutions. And the third thing you want to do is clarify your understanding to make sure this resolves their issue. So, in some of those corny courses that I've taken, they say that the ABCs of disarming an upset client or whatever. So what you want to do is you want to align, bridge, and clarify. I do this naturally because I've done it so much and I've practiced it so much. And I would encourage each and every one of you to get with someone else and practice these techniques, or else you're going to be lost when you get in the situation. You've got a pissed off client on the phone, or you've got a pissed off client on the other side of the computer, or you've got a pissed off client sitting in front of you. You're not gonna remember align, bridge, and clarify unless it becomes second nature. So you got to practice, and once you get this down, it works beautifully. So for example, I used to work in the wireless industry, as some of you know. And I was a store manager for quite some time with a rather large wireless provider, actually the largest in the U.S. And I would have people come in all the time. By the time they got to me, they had already been through either the salesperson or the technician. They had escalated above that person. They had already been to the operations manager and escalated above that person. They had already been to the assistant store manager and escalated above that person. And now they were at me. So by the time they got to me, they were absolutely pissed. However, what I would do, let's take a specific example. I had someone come to me one time that had a $10,000 data charge on their bill. True story. And my assistant manager came and got me and said, listen, I don't even know what to do with this person. They're freaking out. I've got to calm them down. I need some help. I said, well, let's go take care of it. So I go out there, and the guy, I'm not going to repeat everything he said, but he was cussing me for everything I was worth. Personally cussing me. I want to know why you charged me $10,000. Blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, Mr. Johnson, we'll just call him Mr. Johnson. By the way, if you want to escalate a pissed off client and make him more pissed off, call him sir or ma'am. That's a good way to really piss someone off. So ask them their name. And I said, well, let me assure you first off that I'm here to make sure that we find a way to get this worked out. I said, so tell me what happened. And they blah, 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 blah. They did this and they did that, and I know I didn't use that much data. I said, well, let me just tell you first off that I totally understand where you're coming. Now watch this, guys. I'm aligning first. I totally understand where you're coming from. I'm really sorry that happened to you. And if I had a $10,000 data charge on my bill, I'd probably be even more angry than you, and I'd probably not even be dealing with it as well as you are. So, I appreciate that first off. So let me ask you this. If we were able to potentially take care of this for you and come to some type of, amicable solution that's fair to you and fair to us, would that be okay? Now, I'm bridging, okay? Yes, that would be fine. As long as we can get, that's what he said. As long as we can get this taken care of. I said, well, let me take a moment, look at your account, see what we can do. So I looked at the account, and what had happened is, this was a long time ago when people didn't understand that you couldn't just stream an HD movie on your phone. And I think they had like 30 megabytes of data on their plan, and they had used like 3 gigabytes. And so here they are with a $10,000, overage charge. So I said, let me make a phone call. So I actually had to call my manager, so on and so forth. We went back and forth. And what we were able to do for them is we actually were able to backdate their plan, showing that they had the 3 gigabyte plan at the time. And what that did is that took care of that charge for them. So I went back to him and I said, well, I've got great news. I was able to backdate your plan and move you up to the 3 gigabyte plan to cover that cost for you. Now, it is going to be $30 a month more than what you were planning on spending. However, it covers this for you. And this 3 gigabyte plan is going to need to be on here for 3 months in order for me to be able to make this happen. So, is that a good solution for you? Is that something that'll work for you? I'm clarifying my understanding to make sure it resolves their issue. He said, yeah, that'll work. That's fine. I just can't afford to pay $10,000 for data. I said, I totally get it. I will go ahead and take care of this for you. Is there anything else that I can help you with today? So that is an exact 45 minutes later, me and my long stories. That is an exact example of how you align, you bridge, and you clarify. Sometimes align, bridge, and clarify is not going to work. You're dealing with that impossible client that wants something that just cannot be done. When you get to that point, when you've tried to align, bridge, and clarify, and they're still hooping and hollering, and there's no solution that you can come up with, you've given them 15 different options, and it's just not working. And I cannot stress this enough. There is a very specific way and time to ask this question, and there is a way and time not to ask this question. So what you want to do is you want to set this question up. You want to say something to the effect of, I'm really sorry that we haven't been able to work this out yet. It concerns me. I don't build my business on, having clients that are upset, that are unhappy. So let me just ask you this. What would you like to see happen in this situation? There's a big difference between doing that and them hooping and hollering and you saying, well, what would you like to see happen in this situation? Right? The first way is how you want to do this. They're going to give you some kind of outrageous thing that probably just is not even possible. And I'm going to talk about in just a few, after this next couple of slides, what you do instead of saying no. Because I know everyone was like, well, wait, you skipped it. Because I know that they're going to tell me, well, I want you to rank me at the top of Google for, how to make money online by tomorrow. We're going to get into that. All right. So there's another piece of this. You're going to screw up. If you do this long enough, at some point, you're going to screw something up. You're going to have to stumble forward. There's going to be, mix-ups. There's going to be things that happen where you just straight up drop the ball. So I want to talk about rebuilding trust after screwing up and how you do that. The first thing you have to do is take responsibility and ownership. It doesn't really matter whether it was your fault or not. You need to take responsibility and ownership of that situation. So here's an example of that. Mr. Johnson, I really apologize that this has happened to you. I understand it's frustrating, and it's honestly my fault. I'm going to take care of this. We're going to make sure that we get this worked out in a way that's fair for both of us. I did not skirt the fact that I screwed up. I faced it head on. And like I said, inevitably at some point you will screw up. How you deal with it will determine whether your business succeeds or not. Don't place the blame on someone else. Don't say, oh, well, I apologize. My VA caught strep throat and I haven't been able to talk to her in a week, or I haven't been able to talk to him in a week. The client doesn't care about that. All you simply do, even if it's not your fault, you just take responsibility and ownership. Now we're going to talk about rebuilding respect after screwing up. Because once you've rebuilt their trust, you also have to rebuild respect with them. Because, if you continue to screw up, well, they're going to drop you. Do not let them completely, take control of your actions. In other words, just because you screwed up one time doesn't mean that you have to kiss the client's rear for the rest of the relationship. Apologize, take ownership, fix it, and move on. I promise you, clients will respect that. If you have another issue that comes up later that's not where you screwed up, but it's just the client getting pissed off, they're going to go back to, well, you screwed up before, blah, 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 blah. And then you tell them, I understand that, and I apologize that happened. Did I take ownership of the situation and fix that for you? Yes. I'm going to do the same thing here. End of story. You're going to run into situations, and guys, I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you really quickly. It's because this is going to be in a video. Just go back to the section that you need to go back to. Watch it 20 times if you have to, whatever. So now we're going to talk about how to take back control of any situation. This could be in a sales situation. This could be in a negotiation. This could be in a presentation. This could be, when the client is trying to run you over. Well, I read an article on Moz.com that said we should be doing this, and you're not doing that. So what's the problem? I'm sure none of you guys have ever heard that. Why aren't we hitting Facebook harder? I see people posting on Facebook. Why aren't you posting on my Facebook? I could go on for hours and days. I have what I like to call a power statement. My power statement is, let's do this. I know that sounds very, very simple. Let me give you an example. So, if I have a client that's sitting there and they're saying, well, I talked to my friend and he said that we should be doing AdWords, and we're not doing AdWords right now, and I don't know why, and blah 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 blah, and I've been trying to talk to him about video marketing, right? So I will say, well, let's do this. Let's get a video taken care of, and as soon as we get that video taken care of, we'll look into AdWords. How does that sound? Well, no, I think we should really look into AdWords, and you need to do this. Okay. Well, let's do this. Let me do some research on AdWords. While I'm doing that, let's take care of the video, and then we'll move forward, because I guarantee you that you're going to get results out of the video. Now, there could be better examples of that, because in that situation, if the client is just hell-bent on having AdWords, well, upsell them and give them AdWords. Sometimes that's just what you have to do. But, if they're beating you over the head, just listen to them, which is very important. Listen to what they're saying, and then come up with a solution. Say, let's do this. Blah, 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 whatever it is. I used to tell some of my sales reps when I was in wireless, this was when, part of the time that I was in wireless, it was when smartphones were still called PDAs. And there were certain sales reps that I had that just, believe it or not, were not that tech savvy and did not understand PDAs. And they're like, I can't deal with, PDA customers. They have too many questions. I don't know. So I taught every single one of them this. And I would say, when you get to that situation where the person is obviously trying to control everything, and you're dealing with ego, right? They're trying to tell you how smart they are and how much more than you they know. Just say, let's do this. Sounds like you've done a lot of research. It sounds like you have a really good handle on this. Let me look at my resources and see if I can answer some of the more complex questions that you have. We'll look at them together and see what we can figure out. Now, that kind of thing doesn't necessarily always work in a digital marketing realm because, there's so many facets to it. You don't have time to do that every time. But the point is that statement, let's do this, will completely take back control of just about any situation. Now, if your client's over there hooping and hollering and you have not done the ABC method before you do let's do this, not going to work. Let's do this is when you're bridging to a solution. So you would align, you would bridge by saying, let's do this, blah, 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 and then you go to your clarify. This is what we were leading into when we were talking about the impossible client. You really never have to say no to a client. I know that this sounds corny, cheesy, and very, very salesy, but if you do this the right way, it will be absolutely genuine. People won't even realize the sub-psychology of what's going on. Subconsciously, things are happening in their mind and switches are clicking when you deal with them this way. The things that I'm sharing with you guys, this is total client kung fu. This is total gold. Subconscious things are happening in clients' brains when you do these things and you say these things in these ways, and they don't even realize it's happening. Use I can statements. So if what someone says, can you get me to the #1 spot in Google for weight loss by tomorrow? You don't say no, but blah, 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 blah. What you say is, what I can do is, and you offer them an alternative solution, something that you know that you can do. Don't focus on what you can't do. Don't say, well, I can't do that. Blah, 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 blah. Don't do that. Just use, well, what I can do for you is whatever it may be. So, for example, if someone said to me, can you rank a video on the first page of Google in the next 15 seconds? Right? Yeah. Okay. And you guys can loosely use this example. I don't know that I've ever had a client ask me that. But anyway, instead of saying no, I'll say, well, what I can do is I can rank one pretty quickly. In the past, it's gone anywhere between 24 hours and 30 days, just depending on the competition level of the keyword and blah, 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 blah. I didn't say no. I told them what I can do. Because when they're asking me those questions, they only care about what I can do. What I can't do is not important. It's not important to them, and it really shouldn't be important to me. What's important is what I can do. So that wraps it up. I hope I just dropped some serious client kung fu bombs on you guys. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me in the LCT group. I try to engage as much as I can. I stay very, very busy because I have a lot of different things that I do. One of the reasons that I'm doing these videos is because I've had a lot of people ask me, what is it that you do? Yes, I do SEO. Yes, I have clients. Yes, I do some AdWords. I do some digital marketing and all those things. But I also really, my core competency or core strength, if you want to say, is business process implementation and improvement. It's all about the process and getting your processes refined and getting your processes improved and implementing processes. So this is part of that, dealing with clients, the process of how you calm them down, how you do all those things, and how you have make sure that you have a good relationship with your clients, make sure that you remain the authority, and make sure that they're not running all over you. So my current plan is to do a few more videos for you guys. In the next videos, we're going to talk about planning versus execution. We're going to talk about how to conduct a proper SWOT analysis. And this would not be a video series by yours truly if we did not talk about automation and infrastructure. That's somewhere that, I think some of you guys have worked with me on that level. But I wanted to extend that out, in this training to make sure that I don't get boxed into just that there is a lot more things that I do. It's just very difficult to explain in 5 minutes. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry I'm so long-winded. I love to talk, and I love to chew the fat. I think everybody knows that by now. If you have any questions, like I said, reach out to me in the group, and I look forward to seeing you guys again in the next videos. Have a good one.
This is what it is, okay? I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now, you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now, water can flow, or it can crash. Be water, my friend.